Hey everyone, Jason Shepard here. It's day 5 of the 31-day Safer Pilot Challenge. Welcome to the Safer Pilot Challenge. Welcome to the airport. Welcome into day 5 of the 31-day Safer Pilot Challenge. Check in down below. Who is 5 for 5? Let me know in the comments down below. Hey, we're at the airport today. It's busy, it's gonna be windy, it's gonna be loud. I apologize in advance in the audio, but today for day 5, I wanna share with you 3 things that I don't want to say you're missing on pre-flight, but things we can dive into and look at a little bit deeper. You know, we like to go beyond the checklist in our pre-flight and in everything that we do, and that's what I want to show you here today. First and foremost, any pre-flight, I don't care how good you are, how many hours you have, how well you know the airplane, I like to see a checklist in hand. I'll hold you accountable if you hold me accountable. You ever see me at the airport doing a pre-flight, make sure a checklist is in my hand. I'll make sure it's in your hand as well. Let's start with our fuel, and let me teach you something here. When we're sumping, what do we think about when we sump? We go, okay, there's no dirt, there's no water, there's no junk, all that sounds great, but have you ever thought about how blue is my fuel? What do I mean by that? Well, of course, we're using 100 low lead right now, which is blue fuel. When we sump, and you want to get a good sump, none of these little dinky sumps, let's get a good sump here. Never hold it up to something blue like the airplane. Never hold it up to something blue like the sky. It's going to look blue. What is jet fuel? Do you remember that from last year? We did a similar video to this. It's a straw color. So it would actually kind of dilute this down a little bit. Now you might say, well, what would water look like in it? Let me show you as this guy takes off real quick. If we were to add water to the fuel, it separates like oil and water. Do you see how that bubbles up and separates down at the bottom there? So we can see that. You expect, oh, I'd get a lighter blue. No, it's going to truly separate with all of that. All right? Now, let me put this down real quick. The power of a Gatz jar, and this is not a promotion for Mr. Gatz and his jar or whoever made this. Watch this. There's this little micro filter here that when I pour this back in, it's going to allow the fuel to come through. But watch what it does. It leaves the water in there. Amazing, isn't it? I don't know the engineer that designed that. It's awfully smart with that. But if you ever wonder, can I pour that back in? Yeah, you can, slowly through the filter, mindful of all of that. Now, another thing to think about, and I'll dispose of all this in a bit, when you're sumping, what if your fuel is really, really dark blue? Well, what happens is this is the lowest point of our fuel tank. That dye that's essentially in there could settle down at the bottom. That would tell me this airplane hasn't moved in a bit if my fuel is really, really dark blue. On the contrary, I'm always amazed, I'll see people, the line guy or line gal is fueling the airplane above them and they're over there sumping. Well, when they're fueling the plane, they're stirring all that water, all that dirt, everything all up. When you get fuel, hey, let the airplane sit for just 5 minutes or so, let everything kind of settle down so we can work on that. Another thing, speaking of fluids in the plane, is related to our oil. What does our checklist say? 6 to 7 quarts. That's what 23 Mike Zulu's checklist says. However, 6 to 7 quarts of what? We have to look at the quality as well as the quantity. Now, this isn't a fair experiment. We just finished an oil change on 23 Mike Zulu, but let me show you here. Let me show you what good oil actually looks like here. You see that kind of golden color? Is the camera able to capture that? And contrast that nice golden color. Again, this is brand spanking new oil. You can see we're right at 7. What I typically do is I have my rag, I will wipe it clean. I'll go ahead, I'll put it back in, tighten it, and then I'll check it another time. Hey, no Incredible Hulk on this. Who has ever flown an airplane after the Hulk has flown an airplane? And it takes 3 of you to undo the oil cap. You know, this is meant with vibration to tighten itself. So when you go Hulk mode on the oil cap and the engine starts to vibrate, it tightens it even more, and the heat and everything else. So please don't go Hulk mode on it. Check it. Now, I understand sometimes when it's hot, it's difficult to check, but you're gonna get a more honest reading when we look at it this way. Disregard this guy, that was my mistake on the way in there, but you'll get a more honest reading, about 7 right there, as you can see. focus on the quality, right? What is the purpose of oil? It's cooling and it's cleaning. Can it do its job if it's full of dirt and full of junk and everything else? No, it's not going to do as an effective of a job. You know, for a while there, we were doing 25-hour oil changes. It's nice having a maintenance shop do that, but 50 hours at a minimum. Put that rag there. So tip one was really looking at quantity and quality of our fuel as well. Tip two is the same thing, but concerning our oil. Tip three, not related to fluids in the airplane. Tip three is coming over to our alternator belt. I see this get neglected so often here. And I realize in some aircraft, you can't get your hand in there and check the alternator. But let's just focus on the nose here for just a second. Flying back from Fort Lauderdale, it was with Matt and Magda. And Matt found a crack in the alternator belt. Come in here and pull on the alternator belt. Make sure it is snug. You should know what that tension actually feels like on the alternator belt. And look at what's visible there and what you're working with. Is it wearing down? Why you're here as well, again, respecting the propeller, but I need to inspect the propeller. So I'm checking the leading edge of it. A good rule of thumb is if I can get a fingernail caught in anything here, it's probably something I should consider bringing up to a mechanic here. But really checking everything, landing light secure, everything looks good up here with the nose. You know, we talk about our air intakes, just really spending time beyond the checklist. So those are really three things: fuel, oil, a good nose check, maybe we'll call it. Don't put that on your checklist, but you know what I mean. What are some additional things you do for pre-flight? We could have made this video an hour-long presentation if we wanted to. When you check in that you're 5 for 5 down below, will you tell me what are some additional things you check on pre-flight? Maybe they're specific to your aircraft, so share what aircraft you're flying, because that's going to help others as well. Because let me tell you, I pre-flight 23 Mike Zulu differently than I do this SR-22 that you can't see. It's right behind us here. Yes, they're airplane single-engine land, but I pre-flight them very differently. I follow the checklist, of course, but I always go beyond the checklist, above and beyond. You can add to that checklist. You can't take away from it, though. So listen, I can't wait to read your comments down below this video when you check in 5 for 5. If you love our teaching style, if you love how we go beyond the books, beyond the checklist, do check out the online ground school by going to MzeroAtrial.com. Have a blessed, abundant, outstanding rest of your day. And most importantly, remember, a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Hey everyone, don't forget the MzeroA course prices are going up on February 1st. So head over to the MzeroA store to subscribe now and beat the increase. Existing members lock in their prices for as long as they maintain their subscription.